Good evening and welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC. This is the reaction show to Bayer Leverkusen versus Newcastle United in the Champions League. 2-2 the final score. But let before we get into that, do all those good things, smash that like button and get your comments in the chat. Chris, we go to you. How are you getting on?
Yeah, all right, mate. Yeah, just a really, really busy day. But I think it's that time of year, isn't it, Daz? I mean, I say this for the majority of the year. I know anyway, everyone's probably fed up of hearing how busy I am. But yeah, honestly, genuinely so busy. But yeah, managed to get home in time, sit down, have my tea, settle down, watch the match, and yeah, just a little bit deflated is probably the words. But on a personal level, mate, I'm fine. I just feel like tonight was just a little opportunity missed, and a few little bits of the same that we've all been saying all season. And I'm sure you boys will agree when we get into it. But Pete, how are you doing, mate? Oh, you're on mute, mate. Well, I think you're on mute. Well, we can't hear you anyway. It doesn't say you're on mute, but can't hear you. That's while Pete's doing that. How are you, mate?
How am I? It's the second option. How am I?
I'm
joking.
Only because I wanted to check him back in. You know what I mean?
I know. I'm okay. I'm off tomorrow, actually. I have a day off tomorrow, so all good. Not too bad.
Any nice plans?
Look, the boy has something going on in the school tomorrow, so we'll call into that. But apart from that, no. No major plans. We have our show tomorrow evening, though. Looking forward to that one. We'll tell people more about that towards the end of tonight's show. But stay tuned for that for away day / big match preview. How are you now, Pete? Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah,
yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, it's all right. It's my mic. I changed it over, so it had not switched over on the laptop. But yeah, all good. Frustrated about the game tonight, but I'm sure we'll get into it. Lots of different talking points and a few things definitely need to be said about this team tonight, but we'll get into it, no doubt about it. But yeah, not the worst result in the world. I will put that out there early. Not the worst result. So it's not going to be all negative on here. Frustration, yes, but not the worst result in the world. I think most people would have took a point before a ball was kicked, and that's what we got. And we're still fighting in this Champions League, so not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I did see there's a bit of negativity in the chat, right? I think when you do sleep on it, and I know that there's things that keep recurring, but if you sleep on it and you look at the big picture, and hopefully in the remaining games we can capitalize, especially the next one, PSV. At home, but yeah, look, let's get into this one. Let's talk a bit about this. This was the Newcastle team. Gordon starts, as does Barnes, and away we go. A good, strong Newcastle side put out. This is the Leverkusen side that took the pitch. Interesting the way they shared their team news. This is the actual squad as it took the pitch. Which Pete, thoughts on Eddie's lineup?
Yeah, it's probably on paper, individual talent. It's probably close to being the strongest team you could have possibly picked. I mean, of course, you know, Gordon and Barnes starting. One of them's going to have to play on the right, which is not their favorite position. But if you're looking at wingers at the moment, in terms of the ones that are performing at like the best performing wingers, they're probably the front two. After Gordon's performances in the Champions League, you probably put him up there alongside Barnes. So I didn't have an issue with it. Midfield three, I kind of expected it when he said in his press conference he was going to go his strongest. I thought that was going to be the front three and the midfield three. And yeah, the defence is how I expected it to be. The fact that Hall didn't play at the weekend, I thought was quite telling that he was going to then play the next two. I think it was very much saving him for those two games, this one tonight and then the derby on Sunday. Looking at the team, apart from Gordon and Barnes, there was really no surprises in there. I've got to be honest. But you boys, Chris, Daz, what did you think about it?
I was surprised, and the reason I was surprised was because I thought 2 or 3 may have been rested. So I was expecting. Funnily enough, I was talking to the lads about it this morning, and for me, I didn't think this was the game for Joe Linton. I didn't expect Joe Linton to start. I thought he'd be saved for the derby at the weekend. So I was quite surprised by that. But to be fair, Pete, you've just pointed out Eddie Howe said he was going with his strongest midfield. I didn't see the press conference. So if he said that, then obviously, that is the strongest midfield that he could have picked. I knew Dan Burn would start. Malik Chow has to start. Obviously, the 2 full-backs, great to see them playing. We knew Ramsdale would be in goal. I'm still not 100% comfortable shifting Harvey Barnes up to the right. For me, I think I probably would have gone maybe Elanga. It's all hindsight, isn't it? But that's just me personally. I can see why Eddie Howe started Anthony Gordon. Obviously, he's been scoring of late, albeit from the pen spot. But we know he's been really good in the Champions League games, so it does make sense. But yeah, I mean, I had no complaints with the lineup because when I saw it, I thought, right, we're going for it, and fair play. My attitude was very much, go to Leverkusen, try and get something, get out of there, get prepared for Sunday. That was my attitude, I'll be honest. And you're right in what you said earlier that, I think if you'd offered me a point before the game, I'd have shook your hand and said, right, let's go and let's focus on Sunday, because for me at the moment, the Premier League is the priority. Some people may not agree with that, but, I almost look at our league position in the Champions League and think, right, we've got PSV at home. It's a great chance, to go and secure top 24, which ultimately is probably where we're going to end up, if I'm being honest. Had we hung on at the end, maybe not. Maybe I would have been looking at top 8, but we'll see. We'll see. There's still 2 games left to play. But yeah, in terms of the lineup, mate, yeah, I thought it was a strong 11, and I was looking forward to the game.
Don't rule out that top 8, because in that next game for PSG, they have to play Sporting. I know they're away, but I reckon they demolish Sporting. It's all down to us to capitalise with PSV at home. Then it's up for the top 8, still up for grabs. Then anyway, let's get into this again. Spoiler alert as well, actually, for big match preview. I'm putting Miley in my selection for that. But even before he scored, Miley's going into my team instead of J7, I think. Let's go. Right, first half, the early stages were fairly even with both sides sizing each other up. Like Chow cutting out any early danger, Grimaldo popping up everywhere, as we knew he would. More on that later. 12 minutes, goal for Bayer Leverkusen. Andrich connected with a corner, came off Bruno's back. In the goal, 1-0. Another goal conceded from a set piece. Boys, anything we can say about Leverkusen's first?
Go on, Chris. Go for it.
I think this one's quite easy for me to sum up, really. Firstly, and I will touch on this. I think I said to you before the show, didn't I, Daz? I thought we started the game horrifically. Like, absolutely horrific. I thought the midfields were all over the place. There was no protection whatsoever for that back line. I couldn't believe how badly we started, particularly from a midfield perspective. Bayer Leverkusen were just playing one simple pass through the middle of the park, and all of a sudden they were up against the defence. So that was a bit disturbing for me. In terms of the goal, first thing I'd say is I've seen it coming, because Leverkusen were well on top, and it was like we hadn't woke up, which was really frustrating. In terms of the goal itself, the only real criticism I've got is probably the fact that Tonali's just not looking at the ball. He's looking at the man, loses his man, who then gets a shot off, and then it hits Bruno Guimarães, I think on the backside, and then Adam Ramsdale scrambles to try and claw it out or try and save it, and obviously the deflection takes it way past him. So really, yeah, disappointing start. We deserved to go 1-0 behind, if I'm honest, because as I say, I thought we had a horrific start to the game. We woke up finally, weirdly, after the Malik Chow incident, which I'm sure we'll get to. But yeah, disappointing start. Leverkusen deserves to go 1-up. And unfortunately, I think it was just one of those goals where, if Tonali's watching the flight of the ball, maybe he can do a little bit better with it. It seemed like he just had all eyes on the man. The man got the better of him, takes a shot, hits Bruno. Nothing really Ramsdale can do. Yeah, that was my view of the first goal anyway.
Pete, thoughts on Leverkusen's goal?
There's a huge concern for me with us defending set pieces. There's massive concern there. We are very susceptible to conceding goals from set pieces. We don't know how to defend them, and considering we've got physically dominating tall defenders, they seem to be creating, whoever it is, whichever team it is, creating a hell of a lot of chances. So it was very clear that they had a tactic, is to pull all of our tall defenders or tall defending players to the front post and play it to the back post to ensure that whoever was there was not going to be of a physical size to be able to defend it. And that was what it was. And it didn't have to be a great header. It wasn't. I have to say, I think it's really poor goalkeeping from Ramsdale on two parts. One, because he's just not commanding his area. And two, even with the deflection, I still don't believe it should be going in. So for me, I think it's a really poor goalkeeping error. But defensively, it was very poor altogether. And they didn't have to do much to score that goal, which is the biggest frustration. Now, in terms of the start of the game, I have to question Eddie Howe here. Because for the life of me, and it's not the first time he's done this in recent games, for the life of me, I don't understand why Bruno Guimarães starts in the 6 and Sandro Tonali starts in the 8. I've got no idea why it happens. I've got no idea. Because it was very clear that tactic and that setup was wrong right from the get-go. Sandro Tonali is not as creative as Bruno Guimarães, so was not affecting the game high up the pitch. And when they broke, Bruno Guimarães again was running through treacle. And they were just running through at ease without having to try very hard. So we were getting the ball high up the pitch, trying to work the ball, and then they'd break after 5 minutes of press and they'd be in with one pass. And that for me is not good enough. And it only changed after that goal. Because as soon as we conceded, the first thing Eddie Howe did was swap it. And instantly we became a better team. Instantly, Bruno Guimarães gets on the board in the number 8 and starts making things happen. And all of a sudden, we become a more attacking entity. All of a sudden, when they counter-attack, Sandro Tonali 3 times cancels out the ball and stops their counter-attack from happening. And it's like, why haven't we done that from the beginning? Because that is what's worked for the last year. So why they decided to change that, I've got no idea. And it was blatantly obvious. And if you're in the Mags Down South chat, pick that up as well. It was obvious that it was the wrong tactic and the wrong move to start that game off. And that's why the midfield wasn't good to begin with, because it was all wrong. The positional play of the players on the pitch was all wrong. And it shouldn't have been that way from the beginning. So, yes, poor goal to concede, poor start from Newcastle United, but very quickly, we became a much better team when that happened. And yeah, just to note, Sandro Tonali at fault for both goals tonight. Although he played well in between the middle parts of the game, I've got to question Sandro for his defending in the first goal and his tracking of the second one. Really poor from him. We don't normally say or question Sandro Tonali, but he was very poor in those 2 moments tonight.
Right, let's move on. 15 minutes, Barnes shot from distance, and then Gordon started hobbling around for the next 5 minutes, looking like he had an issue. I thought he was going to be actually coming off at that stage, but on the 20th minute, this happened. A foul as Leverkusen sliced right through the Newcastle defence. Malik Chow takes Patrick Schick down. The ref first points to the penalty spot. Then he changes his mind and gives a free kick just outside the box with the VAR in his ear. Then there was a question mark over whether it's a red or a yellow for Malik Chow. It sticks with the on-field decision of yellow, but did we get away with one there, boys? I know Tino Livramento was in the area, so he wasn't exactly the last man back, but could have got away with one there. Thoughts, Chris?
Yeah. So initially, when I first saw it, I thought he was in trouble, big trouble. I hung on to the hope because the commentator was saying, "Oh, it's outside the box, definitely outside the box." Then, obviously, when I saw the replay, it was funny because I saw it was outside the box, and then, like you say, Daz, you saw Tino Livramento coming back. So my first thought was, after I watched the replay, it's not a red because Tino is too close to the ball. So I don't think it's a red. However, what I will say is, I do believe that had the referee shown the red, I'm not sure VAR would have overturned it. I just don't think it was clear and obvious that it was a yellow. I think we were fortunate with the red. However, I keep saying however, it was clearly not a penalty because he made the foul outside the box, and you could argue it was a bit of a cynical foul because he knew the player was in. So he makes the foul, so call it clever, call it, canny, I don't know. But makes the foul outside the box. But it wasn't a red for me. But I do think that if the referee had given a red, I don't think VAR would have overturned it. So we were fortunate, let's be honest, we were fortunate. And I was a bit nervous over the free kick as well, because given that Grimaldo is such a good set-piece taker, I was thinking, are we going to get doubly punished here? Thankfully, we didn't. But yeah, for me, that was when the team woke up. That's when I felt the team woke up anyway, because it was a bit of a shock to the system. But yeah, it could have gone a different way, but I think we were fortunate in that sense. When you look back at it, do I think that the two correct decisions were made, i.e. yellow rather than red and non-penalty rather than penalty? Yes, but I think it could have gone the other way had the referee given that red card, because I don't think they would have overturned it and made it a yellow.
Pete, did the ref make the right call in the end?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the decisions. I thought they were both spot on in their decisions, but he was very eager to give the penalty because he pointed to the spot initially. So I think he pointed to the spot initially, but I don't think he was convinced by it. And I think he was very, very quickly either the linesman's been in his ear and told him, or he's very quickly realised maybe by the cutting of the grass, because when they both go to ground, you can see that there's a part of it in the first instance that happens outside the area. Where the mud in the grass starts to happen. If it looks at an angle from behind the goal, and you can see the mud trails in the grass, and maybe he's looked at that and gone, actually, possibly not a penalty. So he's maybe saved himself in that moment. But yeah, it wasn't a penalty blatantly. It was blatantly out the area, and you could see that Tino Livramento was back covering. So I had no concerns with it. As soon as I saw Tino from the side view, I thought, yeah, it's not a penalty, and it shouldn't be overturned in any way, shape, or form. But again, poor in the transitions. I thought in that first half, I thought Byrne and Chow were both poor. I don't think they played well. Neither of them did. I don't think they had any sort of cohesion in that first half, and it showed because Chow's way out of position. Byrne completely loses his man. Very easy, very. It's not even that. He just lets him go. He doesn't even try and get back to him, and that's the worry. It's almost like he lets him go because it's that's Chow's side. I'll let him go, and then Chow's having to break his back to try and get back and recover the ball. I actually think he's actually done well to get as close to the defender, to the attacker as he does, to try and get back in. But the positional play, the organisation, the communication from those two wasn't great in that first half at all. And so, yeah, it was what it was. Poor free kick to result, which was a huge relief. And then we go again. But yeah, it was just kind of another example of a poor first half performance from Newcastle United. And I'll be honest, I really, really didn't expect it. I really didn't expect us to be that bad.
Right, 35 minutes in, Leverkusen nearly got in with their own goal. Nothing came of that. Rudy Vuller in the crowd, keep an eye on his lookalike, Big Nick. 43 minutes, Ramsdale save, a Newcastle counter, Barnes and Gordon comes to nothing. We've not seen enough of that. Breaking speed to trouble Leverkusen. 46 minutes, Ramsdale save from another Leverkusen breakaway. Halftime, 1-0. do we want to do a sum up of the half because it was pretty shit? But you're right. The turning point was for me as well. I think it was around that Malik Chow incident. At least Newcastle were starting to try and come back into it then, and whether what Newcastle will see in the second half was up for debate. But any thoughts on the first half, boys?
Go on, Pete.
Yeah, I've got a few things to say. I think that first half is now convinced me that midfield three of Joe Linton, Tonali and Bruno is done. It's finished. The experiment's done. It's over. It doesn't work. That midfield, for how great it was last season, is not the midfield that we should be starting with moving forward. Now, there's a player that no doubt we'll be talking about the second half who I said after the Everton game should be getting more minutes, but I wouldn't even argue the other two being given a chance because I'm sorry, Joe Linton is nowhere near the same player that we had a year ago, 2 years ago. That boy, I looked at it, and it was 38 minutes on the clock, and I looked and I was like, I forgot he was even playing. And that's not Joe Linton. That's not the Joe Linton I know. And that's not me being horrible or nasty. He's nowhere near the same player. And I think in that second half, Eddie Howe was using any excuse to get him off the pitch.
You're right.
He was mad frustrated and angry because he wanted to get back on and keep playing. And if this was a year ago, Eddie Howe would have let him continue on and run himself into the ground. But Eddie Howe was very quick. Bang, Miley, you're on. And that tells me everything I need to know about where Joe Linton is right now. And we've got a big, big decision to make come the end of this season with Joe Linton, because this midfield three that was best in the league, etc., is nowhere near it right now. These three as a midfield three are just nowhere near being anywhere close to the best in the league. We need to find another alternative that works. And it's no surprise that we've been linked with Keith Smith and other midfielders. I'm not surprised at all. Not surprised in the slightest, because we need something different in that midfield. And it's absolutely obvious because that did not work at all in that game. And I thought it was a really drab performance in that first half. I know we'll probably talk about him in a much more positive light, but I thought Anthony Gordon was absolutely dreadful in that first half. I counted 6 times in that first half that he had the ball and all he needed to do was face up his man. He had time to turn, face up his man and run at him, and he turns back and he plays that ball back to the defender, and he just completely like avoids attacking. The only one time he attacked, he ran at his man down the left-hand side, tried to put a ball in, wins a corner, and we nearly score from it because Voltemade swings a foot, he just misses it, and it just trickles wide. Other than that, he did absolutely nothing in the game in that first half. And it was really, really poor. And I was crying out, constantly saying, face up your man, go for him, because when Gordon does it, right, he can be frightening. And we saw that in the second half. So I was really frustrated at that. I was also frustrated. I felt sorry for Harvey Barnes because he can't play on that right-hand side. He can't play on that right-hand side. That is not down to Harvey Barnes being rubbish or being poor. He just doesn't play. He can't play on that right-hand side. He's a left-sided winger. And so maybe we need to go back to actually playing our right wingers in matches, even if they're not on the same level of form as our left-hand side. But there were just a few thoughts from me, along with the fact that once Tonali went back into the 6, we were a much better team for it, particularly with Bruno in the 8. So there were just a few things for the first half for me.
Yeah. Frustrations from the first half for you, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. Because yet again, we see a poor start to a game. And a few people in the chat there put them rinse and repeat. And there is a few things that are a little bit rinse and repeat, that being one of them. And there are a couple of other things as well. But yeah, overall, disappointed. I did feel like towards the end of the first half, we started to play a little bit. I remember looking at the clock and thinking 38 minutes. Like, come on, let's try and nick a goal before half time. But again, I'm thinking that on 38 minutes, and I'm thinking, well, what about the 37 before that? And that's the frustration. When you're away in the Champions League, you should be bang up for it. You should be from minute one. You set out your stall and you go, you go and lay down a marker. And it just felt like, particularly those first 15, 20 minutes, we were all over the place. As I say, things did improve slightly. Maybe the shock of the Malik Chow situation. I don't know. Maybe it was the goal. Who knows? But I didn't like what I was seeing. Really didn't like what I was seeing. And considering how big the game was tonight, I was frustrated. I was disappointed. Did Joe Linton go off in the first half? Did we say?
No, second half is coming up.
Right, okay, yeah, because I want to touch on that as well. But yeah, really disappointing, and I think Pete makes a great point actually. About Joe Linton. Maybe that midfield three should be broken up. Because, as I say, which we'll talk about in the second half, things did improve, but unfortunately, it was when Joe Linton left the pitch.
Right, let's get into that second half. 47 minutes, a Hall run a ball across, just needed a touch, but it was too far ahead of Barnes, who was coming in on the right. 49 minutes, Voltemelde put the keeper under pressure. Flecken takes him down. Does he think he's Bruce Gobbler in that situation? I don't know. He went off on one anyway, but the ref points to the spot. Gordon with the ball on 50 minutes. Can he level it up? Bang, he scores 1-1. Gordon with the goal. We're back in it. Thoughts on the lead up to the penalty, boys, and the penalty? Pete, we'll go to you for that one first.
That was the first thing that Nick Baltimore did of any note in that game. Brilliant pressing, well done for winning the ball back off Flecken. Great winning of the penalty, excellent stuff from Nick Baltimore. But that was the first thing he did in the game. That was a big concern for me. He didn't do enough, and there's a few people in the chat early on at the beginning of the show saying, "Oh, we don't do enough for Nick Baltimore. We don't do enough." Nah, not for me. Tonight, he wasn't doing enough for the team. He wasn't working for the team. There was a couple of times in the first half where he had the ball. He got given the ball. I think we pressed really high, won it back. He got given the ball in the area. He then went back to goal and he just fiddled around with it and just gave it away. Just really poor quality in terms of holding onto the ball. And the guy can't win a headed duel. He just can't win a headed duel. He's great in the air when the ball's crossed into the box, but he just does not want to contest a headed duel when it's pumped long from Ramsdale. He does not want to get up and win a header, and I don't know why, because he will tower it over any defender. But I'll talk about the positives. Great pressing, great winning of the ball, and well-won penalty. And Anthony Gordon, someone in one of the other chats said, "Oh, who's going to take it, Voltemade or Gordon?" And I said, Gordon all day. There's no reason to take Gordon off penalties, and his penalties are absolutely superb at the moment. You can tell since that Everton game where he missed, he's been practicing them. And again, right into the bottom corners, sent keeper the wrong way, no chance whatsoever. And I think the way we started the second half, I think it was deserved. We were the better team in that second half, and we needed that goal to kickstart us. And it was a well-deserved goal, lovely penalty from Gordon, well won from Voltemade. And at that point, I'm saying let's get more, let's go for more.
Yep, we're saying that in the chat, of course, as well. Yeah, don't let this up now. But Chris, your thoughts on Gordon's goal and the awarding of the penalty?
Yeah, just before the do, I just want to give a shout out to Checkmeister89. Checkmeister, I've seen your super chat, mate. We are going to come to it. But just to let you know, thank you very much for the super chat, and we will come to it. So please stay tuned in. In terms of the goal, it's funny. Our Callum was absolutely delighted because he said in the first half, because Flecken did not look comfortable on the ball, and he said to me just before he went upstairs, he said he'd come down for the second half, but he didn't. He said he's going to make a mistake tonight. He said you can tell he's dodgy on the ball, and then lo and behold, Nick Voltemade with a good press. Pete, great point again. Nick Voltemade, I thought he had a poor game, if I'm honest, but good moment for him. Obviously, pressed Mark Flecken. Whether or not That was a tactic deployed by Eddie Howe at half time. I don't know, because our Callum was onto it, and the fact that he didn't look very comfortable with the ball at his feet, and that's exactly what Voltemade did. And fair play to him, pressed him down.
Touch of Nick Pope's, you're saying?
Yeah. And you know what? Somebody said, I don't know whether it was a commentator who said it or whether one of you boys said it in the chat. I can't remember. But you know, it had flashes of Marseille. Is this gonna be like Marseille, where we end up going 2-1 up because of the mistake that Flecker made, similar to what happens when Pope made a mistake against Marseille, and lo and behold, that's what happens. But yeah, Anthony Gordon, fantastic penalty, and rightly so. He's on the penalties because he's putting them away with a lot of conviction. He's looking really, really confident, and it's doing in the world of good. And obviously, you can see from his celebration how much it means to him. But yeah, at that point, boys, I'll be honest, I thought, right, tide's turn, and here we go. Strong start to the second half. And at this point, I'm excited because I'm thinking, right, here we go. Let's go and get these 3 points. And what a huge 3 points they would have been as well, away from home.
Right. Leverkusen then up their game as they push to regain the lead. This is where J7 comes off then. So 59 minutes, J7 is down injured. He doesn't want to go off, though, when he is taken to the sideline. Miley comes on. Eddie Howe makes the decision there. 62 minutes. Gordon run and shot. He hits the post, much like the one he had against Burnley. Unlucky. 64 minutes. Big Nick turn and shot, blocked for a corner. 68 minutes. Tonali slip. Leverkusen break. Tonali tracking back. Striker puts it over the bar, but it comes a haul for a corner. 70 minutes. Gordon, great ball into Miley, who nearly connected with it. More coming like that later. 73 minutes. Gordon with another ball in. This time, Miley does connect with it. He heads it into the back of the net. 1-2. Number 6-7 gives the lead to Newcastle, and we are on cloud 9. And we're thinking this could be our night here. Boys, thoughts on the goal from Miley?
Get this boy started in the derby on Sunday.
Yeah,
that's my take.
Yeah,
get him starting in the derby. He was brilliant against Everton. He came on today, and instantly we became better in midfield. The connections, the ball, the retention of the ball, the passes, the recycling of the ball in sustaining attacks. He was a big part of all of it. And when you've got a midfielder like that, and he played the Joe Linton role, because Joe Linton was trying to be that man to come and support Voltemade and get into the box and try and get on flick-ons, and he weren't doing none of that up until he went off. And then Miley comes on and he's getting into the box and he's looking dangerous, and then he throws his body. He gives everything to get on the end of that. He gives his whole body to get on the end of that, to flick that into the far post. It's a lovely header. But you know what? I hammered Gordon for the first half when you asked me for my thoughts. I thought second half he was absolutely superb. Anthony Gordon, he was absolutely brilliant in the second half. Everything that I wanted in that first half, he gave us in the second half. And that's why, that's the Anthony Gordon from 2 years ago. That's the Anthony Gordon we all want to see. That guy that gets the ball and faces up his defenders and runs at them and uses his pace, and he's electric, and he cuts in and he puts great crosses into the ball, into the box. That's what I want to see. And it was brilliant from Anthony Gordon. Absolutely superb. And the fact that Miley's in the position to throw his body at the ball, to get something on the end of it, he wanted that. And he made sure that he was getting there before that defender. He said, I'm getting on this and I'm getting my head to it. And he made sure, and it was a brilliant goal. And it was a well-deserved goal at that point, because we were sustaining attacks and they were on the back foot. And it was really, really good to see. So a brilliant goal all round. Love the celebrations from him. Love the celebrations from the away end. It was absolutely superb. And I was just so hopeful that we could, kick on in the game and really kind of take the game to Leverkusen, which we did really to a point. But I'm sure we'll get onto it. But just a brilliant goal all round. That's the Newcastle United I want to see. That was the Newcastle United we saw in that second half. Brilliant stuff.
How was the goal for you, Chris?
Fantastic. I can't add much more than what Pete said there. I thought the cross from Gordon was brilliant. And I thought Louis Miley showed how much he wanted it. And he really throws himself at the ball. And again, I know I say this a lot because I normally follow people. I can't disagree with anything he said. I think Louis Miley showed us what he's capable of doing in that Joe Linton role. And sadly, I don't think Joe Linton's got the legs anymore to play in that role. And particularly in the way that we play as a team, we need people up there because we only play with the one striker. We need people up there supporting the main man, whether that be Baltamada, whether that be Visser. We need runners from midfield. How many times, Pete, on that Tactics board have we said, or sorry, mainly you said, when we've got it up about, the Joe Linton, the Bruno, sitting in and around the main striker, getting up there, causing havoc, being that extra body in the box. We don't see that from Joe Linton. We did a couple of years ago. We don't see it now. We just don't see it.
I would say, Chris, I wouldn't say that we don't see it. He's just not good at it. He's just like he's
never been
kind
good at it. He's never been good at it.
But like for me today, it wasn't about creating chances. I thought we put some really good balls into the box. We put some balls into a good area into the box. If we had enough players in the box attacking it and being in the right areas, we could really affect the game. And I saw Joe Linton in the box quite a few times in the time it was on the pitch. He doesn't do anything with it. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't win headers in the air. He's not doing anything on the ground. Just doesn't offer anything. And we need that. If we're playing with a 3 midfield, if we're going to have Bruno as the creator and the one that's going to play those passes, if we're going to have Sandro as the one to break off those transitions if they counter-attack, we need the third man to venture into the box, to get himself into the box. We even saw that from Jacob Ramsey on Saturday against Burnley. He got into the box a couple of times, put the ball back for Baltamada in the first half. Good save off the line from the defender. He was even arriving in the box, and he could have scored. As you talked about it on the match reaction for Burnley, when the ball comes to the box, he has a bad touch with his knee, it rolls to the goalkeeper or the defender, clears it.
He's getting there.
Exactly that, Dad. He's getting there. So if Jacob Ramsey's getting there, Miley's getting goals, why is Joe Linton still starting matches? Because he's not doing any of that. And I just feel like it's time that we need to move forward in a different direction. We just do, whether it's your 40 million man, Jacob Ramsey, to go, right, here's your run of games, or whether we go, right, Miley, you come in, you play that role on the left-hand side, and you just marshal the game and you arrive in the box and look dangerous and get on the end of things. We need to see something different because it's not working. It really isn't.
Just thinking forward into January and into the summer, big decisions for Eddie Howe. Sorry to point back to Dan Byrne again, but it's like the favourites tag that he has on some of our players that he's going to have to get out of that mindset and to evolve and go and try something different. So, but anyway, that's further on down the road. We are where we are for this season. He has to work with what we have, and we have players he can work with. Let's move on. Good save from Ramsdale, 76 minutes, 77 minutes sub. Barnes off, Murphy on. 80 minutes, Malik Chow with the header from a Tonali cross. 81 minutes, Murphy has a pop, hits the same post as Gordon. Counter then from Leverkusen. I was writing this down. I didn't even see the counter. Ramsdale save. That was after he was going to shove. He tried to make a clearance, but it came straight back at him. But it was a good save on the follow-up. Newcastle come under intense pressure now. 87 minutes, a step over. Here we go. A step over from that man, Grimaldo. Confuses Newcastle. Grimaldo follows it up well with the return pass and finishes to make it 2-2. Boys, thoughts on that move and goal from Leverkusen to level it?
So yeah, Pete's highlighted it at the start of the show anyway. Tonali loses his runner, which is disappointing. I also think, and not to jump on the bandwagon, because a few people in the chat have been giving him pelters, Van Been's got to do better. He really, really has. For me, anyway. And it's just another frustrating goal to concede, isn't it? Because it was so unavoidable. And I have to say, in respect of this goal as well, again, like the first goal, you could see it coming. And we'll probably touch on this a bit more at the end when we do a summary, or we come to questions. But I thought Eddie Howe subs tonight were poor, really, really poor. And I said this to you pre-show, that before we started. I feel the timing of the subs was all wrong. You can go into the Joe Linton sub, which I'm sure we'll talk about a bit later. But we were screaming out for substitutions at that point. And what really frustrated me and really, really annoyed me, if I'm honest, and maybe this is down to the players, maybe this is down to the mentality, which we've been speaking about for weeks on end now. What really annoyed me was defend, 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 defend. As soon as they scored, we then started attacking. And it was like, boys, like, the game's dead in the water now. Like, you should have been doing this 5 or 10 minutes ago to alleviate the pressure. Instead, we sit in and we invite the team to come on to us. How many times are we going to have to do this season? How many times are we going to, I say this most shows, don't I? But we've all played football. We've all been 11-a-side, 6-a-side, 5-a-side, whatever it is. If you've got a lead, one of the worst things you can do is just sit back and soak it up, particularly against good teams, especially when you're away from home. You're in a Champions League game against a bloody good side, and you're sitting back inviting pressure. How about ask questions of them? Push yourselves 10, 15 yards up the pitch and make them a bit worried. And also on the back of that, your striker is absolutely exhausted. We've seen that for weeks on end now. Nick Voltemade has held the line really, really well. He, for the past few months, he's been the only option. Obviously, Johan Visser's only just coming back into the team. Will Asula's is still injured, as far as I'm aware. He's the only striker, and he's done so well. But tonight, it was abundantly clear to me, his game was spent after, and I'm being generous here, 55, 60 minutes. That Johan Visser should have come on, for me, at least 60, 65 minutes. He should. And if you don't want to put him on, stick Gordon through the middle. Just bring a winger on and stick Gordon through the middle and take Voltemade off, because he looked shattered, and we needed that outlet up front. We needed that player on the halfway line when the ball breaks and you pump it up and you get them running. And that for me was the frustration. That's the thing that really annoys me tonight. Yes, on reflection, I think a point is a decent result, but it should have been 3 points, and it could have been 3 points. Obviously, as you ran through there, Daz, we had an opportunity to make it 3-1. We had an opportunity to make it 4-1. We didn't take our chances. Obviously, we're unlucky with the post. But I do feel that the substitutions tonight were poor. I don't like going in too hard on the manager. You know how I feel about the manager. I love the manager. But I am getting frustrated. I am getting a little bit annoyed now because we're making the same mistakes. And I also have to put it on the players as well, because they need to snap. This mentality needs to stop. It really, really does. I'm just frustrated because they deserved 3 points tonight. They could have had 3 points tonight, because particularly in that second half, I thought we played really, really well. But then on the other side of me is going, but you've invited the pressure. You've asked for that to happen. We all saw it as fans. I'm sure the away end saw it. We all saw it. Everyone at home watching this saw it. You could see they were going to equalise. And it's so frustrating that we've allowed ourselves to drop 2 points. Imagine now we had them extra 2 points. This show would have been a hell of a lot different. So I'm frustrated. I'm disappointed. And yeah, when the goal went in, to see them then attack and trying to get a third, it was just like, come on, boys, the game's done now. You should have done this 5-10 minutes ago. And that's the frustration for me. It was a disappointing goal to concede, but we've seen it time and time again this season. And that's what's really annoyed me.
You're right, Chris. This would be a totally different show, and we'd be wearing sunglasses at 11 o'clock at night. But Pete, thoughts on Grimaldo's goal for you?
For me, if I'm Eddie Howe, I'm going into the January window and I'm going and getting Grimaldo and adding him to our left back situation. I would. I don't care. I don't care that he's 30.
He's class.
I don't care that he's 30.
Is he a left back?
Yeah.
well, he's a left back.
I know he is, but is he a left back? Is my question.
You wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it because he's an attack-minded left back, a little bit like Hall, but he's obviously a more experienced version. And we need a left back. It's very, very clear. A couple of really poor moments in the game. In that moment, I think Tonali lets Grimaldo go way too easy. I think Dan Burns really poor on the recovery. I also think Lewis Hall is poor on the recovery as well. And Lewis Hall knows it because it cuts to him when the goal goes in. And he knows, and he kind of looks up and he realizes that he could have done more to get back. But Grimaldo was superb throughout that whole game. Very, very good. We were close to signing him a couple of years ago, and now you understand why. At the time, because he's a very, very good left back. And if we can sign Kieran Trippier at what 31 years old, there's no reason why we can't get some experience in Grimaldo and bring him into that left back situation. But yeah. Poor. I'm not gonna blame Voltemade for that goal because that wasn't on him. But I agree that subs should have been made. I asked the Mags Down South chat lads. It was on 82 minutes, and I said to them, I said, should we bring Wieser on at this point? And one or two of their responses was, nah, they'll keep Voltemade on because of defending set pieces. There's your problem. Yeah, that's your problem right there. That's the problem. And that was when I heard that response, I didn't say anything back because that there is the problem, is that we're too worried about defending set pieces rather than attacking. Because my response back to them was, or my response was going to be back to them, I didn't respond to it in the end, was going to be, what about Wieser on the counter?
Yeah, what are we doing? What are we doing?
To play the other end. And actually, it is recycling the ball and playing it long or playing it through on the counter where their fullbacks are pulled right up and he can expose those wide areas and he's got the pace to win in behind it. Why are we not looking at that situation? And we didn't. And we persist and we persist and we persist. And at times, I feel like it's a case of we try and just see ourselves through with the players that we've got, but it's not good enough. It's not working. We need to make those changes a hell of a lot quicker. We made those changes really, really well at the Hill with Dickinson against Everton, and we managed to see that game out really comfortably because we made the subs at the right time. Man City, we made subs at the right time, and it's very, very clear when we're making the wrong subs, like Spurs, bringing Shaw on in the back three rather than looking to go forward, and we can see the goal in the last minute. We've kind of done the same again because we're letting players max out. Because Nick Voltemade will be starting again on Sunday, but he looked absolutely shattered tonight. He looked absolutely gone by 80 minutes, and we've kept him on another 10, 12, 13 minutes in the game where he already looked done out there. Whereas at least Johan Wieser can use his pace to press and work and track and do the things that Nick Voltemade can't do at that point in the game. And I'm not saying it's every game, but there's a number of games now where the subs are becoming a problem. And we need to make sure we're better at them. Now, I'll caveat that with the fact that he made the sub at the right time with Louis Miley. He brought Louis Miley on. He could have kept Joelinton on, which we talked about earlier, but he made the sub at the right time when Louis Miley came on and affected the game, changed the game, scored the goal. So I think, we have to look at both sides of the coin here. He's made a good sub at the right time where he didn't have to. So fair play, Eddie Howe. But actually, in the back end of the game, he's not. But we can't keep having these misses where subs aren't made at the right time and it's affected. Jonathan for Goalpost has just said, Pete, I think Wieser will start on Sunday. There is no way that Johan Wieser starts on Sunday. I don't think Johan Wieser will be starting any game whatsoever, probably until maybe we'll be looking around the game at Old Trafford on Boxing Day is the earliest point in which Johan Wieser starts games, because it's very clear, the fact that he brought him on in the 93rd minute, that they are really looking after him and making sure that he is 100% fit before they start giving him proper minutes. He needs to build up his natural fitness to be able to withstand long-term in matches. That's just my opinion on it. But
Pete, can I ask you a quick question? And the reason I'm asking you this question is because a few people in the chat have been talking about it, and you've just touched on it. You mentioned that Eddie Howe made the Joe Linton substitution, and fair play to him for making that substitution. A few people in the chat are suggesting that because Joe Linton went down, that then gave Eddie Howe the hand to be able to make the substitution. And a few people in the chat are suggesting that had Joe Linton not gone down, that Eddie Howe maybe wouldn't have made the substitution. And the other thing I wanted to mention, by the way, was, which was really annoying, the commentator throughout the rest of the game, and even at the end, was like, "Oh, Newcastle, they're going to be really disappointed because Joe Linton went off injured. It looks really bad for them." And you're thinking, did you not see the camera zoom in on Joe Linton? And he's like, fine. Yeah. And Eddie Howe's like, "No, you're off." And he's like, no, I'll come back on. So I don't know what the commentator was going on about with that. But what would your response be in point to that? Do you think that Eddie Howe took the opportunity because Joe Linton went down, then he went off the pitch? Or do you think that he would have made that substitution anyway?
No, he would not have made that substitution anyway. That's not what I was saying in the point that I was making. What I'm saying is that he went down. Eddie Howe could have kept him on, and this is the point that I made earlier on about Joe Linton. If this was Joe Linton a year ago or 2 years ago, Eddie Howe would have chucked him back on the pitch and said, "You need to keep playing." But there's an element where I think the trust is gone in his ability in the game, and I think he's looked at it and gone, he's got an injury, right? At this point, this is what I'm thinking. Eddie Howe has got an injury. I want Louis Miley on. Let's just bring him off. Let's not risk him getting a further injury. He's almost kind of like he's like managing players to ensure they don't pick up a further, more significant injury. So I think that's why. From himself. Yeah. Ultimately, now, I'm not saying he would have made that sub anyway. I don't think he would have. I think he would have kept Joe Linton on, but it almost gave him the opportunity to make that sub. And what I'm saying is that he stuck to his guns, because he could have said, "Actually, no, Miley, you go sit down, Joe, go back on and play." But he didn't. He went, "No, no, you're coming off, Miley, you're coming on," and he stuck to his guns on that. So I'm saying, I'm glad. What I'm saying is I'm glad that he did that because it changed the game. I want Miley to start playing matches. I said it after the Everton game. I want Miley to start playing more minutes. I want him to start starting matches in this Newcastle team, because I've gone full circle here, because I was saying after the summer, I think he needs to go on alone and get some regular minutes. Now, after that Everton game, I saw the vision. I was like, actually, he can play in this team. And actually, this team can function as a really good midfield with him in it. And what we saw tonight when he came off the bench is exactly that. And not only could we function, he scored the goal that put us in the lead. So it's almost justifying that point that actually he should be playing more minutes. And this is why I'm saying now, Miley, in my opinion, my honest opinion, should be starting on Sunday, in my opinion, because he's the type of guy, he's a Geordie lad, he's come up through the academy, right? We know he can play at this level. He's played in bigger games than the derby. Obviously, it's our biggest game of the season, but you think PSG away at, 17, 18 years old and playing as well as he did a couple of years ago? That's a massive game for him. He's played in big games for Newcastle United, so he can play in this derby. And I trust him to play in this game and give him the opportunity. You want Geordie players. You want players that understand what this derby means to the club. I'm not saying Joe Linton doesn't, but I'm saying I'm not against, and I've got full trust in Miley to start this game. But going back to the point, I'm not saying that that sub was going to happen anyway. It definitely wasn't. But I'm happy almost that Eddie Howe went, "Nah, I'm going to stick to what I was going to do. Miley, you're on. Joe Linton, you're on." I'm almost glad that he did that. That's kind of the point that I'm making, because it turned out to be the best move for the team who played better with him in it, if that makes sense.
No, it does make
2 points. 2 points. Like, I remember early in the season, I know Miley was just coming back from it being out injured for all last season, for most of last season, but we were talking about it, and we need, because he just kept passing backwards and wasn't affecting games. But he stepped up, really stepped up in the last number of weeks, and gradually stepped up. And he's in that starting spot for me as well. And the second point I wanted to make was, it was something you were saying, Pete, about he kept Nick Voltermater on for defensive situations and the defending set pieces. In the same way, he kept Dan Byrne on the yellow card before he got sent off that game. and for his height. So height doesn't mean everything, Pete. Are you with me there? But
well, I would argue that because the 6 foot club would tell you something different. The 6 foot club would tell you something different, but it does mean something. But yeah,
I wasn't actually going that direction, but it just came to me when I was on it. Anyway, 90 minutes. Malik Chow connects with the corner, went over the bar. 92 minutes. Loads of time left in the game. 2 minutes for Wisa, his Champions League debut, to come on and change the game. He comes on for Nick Waldemade. I'm pulling the piss there, obviously, and so does Ramsey. Gordon off. Anyway, 2-2. Desmond, final score. At the end of the day, though, you would have taken a point potentially before the game, and you would definitely have taken a point when Malik Chow, when the referee has pointed to the spot and looked like Malik Chow was getting sent off. On the grand scheme of things, yeah, we should have won the game on the number of chances we had and losing a lead again. But it's not the worst thing in the world. But Anthony, you want to say, lads, in summary of the game before we go have a look at the Champions League table? Chris?
Yeah, just frustration. That's the big one for me. I'm still not wholly convinced that was the best 11. I think it was enough to win the game. I still have issues, boys. I'm not going to lie. I have issues. I'm glad Pete mentioned it earlier with Harvey Barnes on the right. I think Harvey Barnes isn't a right winger. I think that's been clear for a long time. Whilst I know he wants to play Gordon and Barnes, I'm not sure. I think personally, given that he's probably going to want to start Gordon on the left wing, I probably would have gone Alanga, because I think Alanga's shown a little bit of promise in recent times. Would have been harsh on Harvey Barnes, don't get me wrong, but I almost thought like maybe save Barnes for the derby. I don't know. And then I think overall, I'm disappointed with the substitutions. I think the substitutions could have been better. And also, I've got to say, because I don't want to put all this on Eddie Howe, I'm disappointed with the mentality of the players, because people can say it comes from the manager, and to a degree, I'm sure it does. But as a team, collectively, one of the players, whether it be Bruno as captain or one of the more experienced players, needs to be saying, "Come on, boys, we push out, we get out, stop inviting this pressure." We've seen it time and time again this season, and I want someone to stand up in that squad, whether it be Dan Burn, prime example, and just say, "Boys, out, get out, and stop inviting the pressure." But again, would a substitute have helped in terms of having Visser as that outlet, bringing on Alanga, having that player who's going to sit on the, as I mentioned before, sit on the halfway line and mean that Leverkusen almost question themselves a little bit and go, "Hang on a minute, if they get caught on the break, could be in a bit of bother here." Also, I wanted to point out something I noticed during the game, which is quite worrying. I think it was midway through the second half, I noticed when we were peppering Leverkusen's goal and we were really going for them. Again, something, Eddie, if you're watching, something to keep a lookout for, mate. The last man back was Dan Burn, which to me was just petrifying. I'm thinking, why is Malik Chow not there? Why is Sandro Tonali not there? Dan Burn was the last man. So if Leverkusen had made that break, it would have been It would have been Dan Burn against 2 or 3 attacking Leverkusen players, and we really would have been embarrassed if that would have happened. So maybe something needs working on that. But yeah, overall, just frustrated, disappointed. I am pleased with the point, Daz, and as you say, I'll wake up tomorrow and go, "Do you know what? It was a decent point." But it could and it should have been 3 points, because when we were 2-1 up, we were in the ascendancy, and very, very quickly we had 2 great chances from Anthony Gordon with the post, Jacob Murphy with the post. So really, we could and should have got all 3 points tonight. And I just think if a few things had changed, we would have done that, and maybe had that little bit of luck as well. But yeah, I think all is not lost. PSV at home next. So I think we're in a really good position to finish in that top 24. Can we still get top 8? It's possible. It is possible. If we win our next 2 games, I think that'll put us on 16 points, which arguably would be enough. But it's a hell of an ask to go to the Parc des Princes and go and win. I think we'll beat PSV at home. I fully believe that. But yeah, I'm just frustrated, is what I'd say.
They could be in the top 8, secured by that stage. But anyway, Pete, thoughts on the game as a whole?
Yeah, very much a game of two halves for me. I thought we were really poor in the first half. I thought we were really good in the second half. But we tied in the second half, and it's just becoming a regular theme now that's quite worrying, if I'm going to be honest with you. I'll take the point now. I would have taken the point before the game, or obviously we always want 3, but I would have taken a point at Leverkusen. It's not an easy place to go. They have had an upturn in form, and it still keeps us alive in that top 8 race. Because for me, I believe that we can beat PSV at St James's Park. Yes, they've done well. A few people have said, yeah, they've battered Liverpool. Liverpool defensively are shocking, by the way. I think we're poor in the second half, but I think in game, I think we're better than Liverpool defensively. Although they might have better players on paper, and I believe at St James's Park we can really take the game to them and cause them problems. So for me, I do believe that we're still in the race for that top 8, and a win will put us in pole position. I think a win could put us into that top 8 and ask questions of other teams going into that last game. Can you get the points to overturn us? And we've got a good goal. We've got a good goal difference as well. I think it was +7. I think it is. So that should hold some weight too. So there's lots going for us going into this last 2 games. It's just the manner in which we're conceding goals. It's frustrating. I've got something here, the tweet that was put out before. We conceded in the 100th minute to Liverpool, the 84th and the 96th minute to Arsenal, the 85th minute to Brighton. Obviously, we know the West Ham and the Brentford ones, but the 95th minute against Spurs, 94th minute against Burnley, 88th minute today. Like some of these games, the ones that I read out, they're angering and they're frustrating because it's the manner in which we're conceding these goals. It's late on in the game, and the goals that we're conceding are really, really poor and mostly down to our own mistakes. And that's a huge concern because it can't continue. Like we can say, oh yeah, we'll get there in the end. But if we keep doing it, it's going to mean that we're going to be losing even more vital points that should be propelling us up the league. We should be sitting in the top 6 right now in the Premier League. We should be sitting in the top 6. Ideally, we should be sitting in that top 8. We should have got something from Marseille. We probably should have got 3 points today. And we're home and hosed at that point. We are literally well in the driving seat. We would be going into this PSV game knowing that a win almost secures is in a guaranteed top 8. That's how it should be. But it's not. But we need to learn, and we need to learn quickly. Because we cannot afford to be in this position come Sunday afternoon. We cannot be. We need to be out of sight. And we can't get to the point where we're looking at Everton as an example of what we need to do every game. We're not going to be 3-4-0 up in every single game. And we can't expect to be in order to see a game out. We're going to have to learn to see these games out and to be able to play against the good side, whoever it may be, whether it's Sunderland on Sunday, whether it's Fulham in the Carabao Cup midweek, whether it's Chelsea at home the week after. We're going to come up against sides that are going to come at us, and we are going to have to withstand that wave. We're going to have to start learning to see those games out. So, yes, Anthony Gordon said after the game that they've been working on it continuously. Well, it's not working. So something needs to be added to that to ensure that it does work. Now, they've tried the 3 at the back as an option with the Shaw, etc., etc. I think now they need to go the other way and bring on attacking players to push the team further forward to keep them on the front foot. And I'm hoping that bringing Johan Wieser on in the 93rd minute spells that he's going to be coming on with maybe 25, 30, 35 minutes to go against the scum. And I'm hoping that's why he's holding. This is hope, and this is not guarantee. I'm hoping that's why he held back Wiese tonight, so he can play more minutes, having had a few more training sessions on Sunday. That's what I'm hoping for, because I think we're going to need him on Sunday. I think we're going to need him to be the difference maker.
Okay, boys, let's look at the table. And as Pete mentioned there, we currently sit in 12th spot. We're on a goal difference of 7. Sitting on 10 points. Now, if you look down, top 24 go through. Automatically through is the top 8, as we know. But if we go scroll all the way down to 24th spot, which is Copenhagen, Napoli, and Quarberg, all sit at 7 points, which means, and they have a poor goal difference. If we beat PSV, even if we 1-0 or even more convincingly, we guarantee a place in the top 24 for me, barring a crazy turnaround in goal difference in the PSG game. But so that's where we sit at the moment in 12th spot. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. We were at one point up at 6th when we were winning. But thoughts on the table, lads? Any further thoughts? Chris, we'll go to you first. You're on mute, Chris.
Sorry, Daz. Yeah, no, I was just saying I still think we're in a decent position. Coulda, woulda, shoulda describes it very well, Daz, because technically, we could and should have been on 3 more points, because I think we should have won tonight and we could have at least got a draw against Marseille. So yeah, obviously, if you add 3 points to that total, we'd be on 13 points right now, and that would mean that we'd be sitting probably 4th. We'd be, because we'd be ahead of Man City on goal difference. So yeah, frustrated, disappointed. However, as I mentioned earlier, when I spoke to the lads earlier on this morning, I said to them, for me, this Champions League campaign for me now is all about finishing in that top 24. Let's roll the dice. Let's see who we can get in this knockout round and get ourselves into the last 16. Because ultimately that's got to be the aim. The first 8 are going to qualify automatically for the last 16, and then it's about the other 16 clubs fighting out with each other to make up the last 16. So that's what we need to do. And who knows, boys, we could end up with a Karabag, we could end up with a Sporting, and we'll be absolutely buzzing, to make that last 16. But yeah, I don't think all is lost. I think it's just disappointing, because really we could and should be higher up in that league table, but these things happen. Now, for me, the focus is on the Premier League on the weekends for obvious reasons, because it's important that we push ourselves up that league as well. And then I want us to have our heads firmly on that PSV at home game, because if we win that PSV at home game, that will put us on 13 points, and we have all but, in fact, I think we're guaranteed to finish in that top 24, and then we can start worrying then about the knockout phase. But yeah, it's all lessons learned, and I think the only one thing I want to add, and I don't know whether you boys felt like this, I kind of did, towards the end of that game when we were 2-1 up, it almost felt to me, it reminded me of when we played AC Milan at home in the Champions League, and Eddie rolled the dice, didn't he? And obviously it backfired, and we ended up at bottom of the group. We're in the old format 2 years ago. And it just made me wonder. I wonder if Eddie's been scarred a little bit by that, because to me, I just felt like we just needed to be a bit braver tonight, just to try and make those substitutions and get, ask more questions of Leverkusen, and we didn't. But it's all a learning curve. We're not particularly experienced in the Champions League in terms of, we've not been in it for the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years on the bounce. That's something that will come with time. But I'm hoping that lessons were learned tonight, and I still feel confident based on where we are in the league. I think we're doing fine, is what I'd say. Could it have been better? Yes, but I still think we're in a pretty decent position.
Well, I just, before I go to you, Pete, and your thoughts on, is it an open draw from positions 9 to 24 when they go into the hat? It is an open draw. You can get anyone in this this.
I don't know whether it's like a bit like what they do in the playoffs. So I don't know whether 9th will play 24th and then 10th will play 23rd. I'm not sure, or whether it's pick and mix. If anyone in the chat knows, or if Pete knows, please do say. But I'm not 100% sure on that.
I don't know about... No, go on.
Sorry, Pete. Okay, no, because I'm just looking at last year's one, and I see 2 French sides playing each other. So it like we could play Chelsea, let's say, for example, if we were both to land in those positions. But sorry, go on, Pete.
No, so someone messaged me saying if it stays the way it is, then we'll be playing potentially Leverkusen in the playoffs as well. Someone messaged me that earlier on just after the game. I don't know how true it is. I've got no idea, but yeah. Look, I'll be honest. I'm not worried about the playoffs. I think we're in the playoffs regardless. I don't think we'll drop out that 24. But yeah, I think we're still in the race. I think we're banging the race with the win against PSV. Other teams around us may well drop points. We'll have games against each other, etc., etc. It will allow us to potentially, if we can win our next game and be in that top 8 with 1 game to go against PSG, I think we'll be in a really good position because PSG will be all but there in their next game. I don't know who they've got, but Champions League wise. Okay. Yeah, so if PSG wipe the floor with Sporting and get that win, they won't need to play for anything in that last game. That could fall in our favour to potentially get something. Now, look, PSG are PSG. They've got a great squad of players, but the need to win that game will be far less than what we actually would be if they're having to fight for something to guarantee their top 8 spot. So for me, I think win this game for PSV, be in that top 8, and if we're going into that last game looking to maybe get a point to secure our top 8, I think we're in a really good position. But at the same time, the club will see it as a win-win because if we get in the playoffs, we'll have 2 extra games in that playoffs. So for me, the club will see it as a positive because that'll be 2 extra games where they can get that revenue and that money in. Whether we like it or not is a different question. But the club will see it as a positive off the back of that. But we will be in the playoffs regardless. And look, we'll still be in that position in the Champions League to keep fighting. It'll mean a couple of more games, which will be tough on us, but it is what it is. When you're playing at the top table, you gotta play against the best teams. It's as simple as that. So, look, for me, it's all still to play for. We're in a good position. Not the worst game in the world tonight. And yeah, as I've said, I'd have taken a point before the game anyway.
I think I found the answer to that question as well. I'll stick it in the chat here. Okay. Sorry, Chris.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, I think I put it in the main chat. Yeah, that it seems to be that like 9th will play 10th. So you kind of play the team right either underneath you or above you. It seems to be the way that they've paired. This is last year, and from just a quick glance on Wikipedia. So, but let's see. We don't have to worry about it yet. Let's see how maybe after the next game we can look at it in more detail. But so if it was to stay the way it is, we would be playing Spurs, I think.
Take that.
Right. And we'll take that again. Right. Let's go to some comments and questions from the chat.
Yeah, sorry, I am about 20 minutes behind with the comments. The comments have been absolutely fantastic tonight. And for everybody, just as a little reminder, obviously, thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to hit that like button. It is much appreciated. It says on the screen, obviously, about putting in comments. Thank you for all the comments. It is much, much appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It would be great, for you to become a subscriber, and obviously you will be notified of any shows that we have coming up, and the shows are coming up thick and fast. We have a show tomorrow, which we may talk about a bit later on, but let's get to some questions. And so there's some hard-hitting questions tonight, boys, so strap in is what I would say. But first of all, I must come to Checkmeister. So thank you very much, Checkmeister, for the super chat. It is much appreciated, and thank you for your patience. As somebody reminded you in the chat, we tend to come to super chats and questions at the end. The reason we've left yours at the end, Checkmeister, is because your question is very broad and it's a bit of a wrap up. So that's why we wanted to bring it at the end. So Checkmeister says, boys, same shit again. Go ahead, sit back, invite pressure, concede. What is going on? I'm not sure how is the person to take us to that elite level, guys. And it's almost what we were talking about earlier, wasn't it? In terms of seeing a rinse and repeat of, get ourselves in the lead, sit back, almost invite the pressure, as Checkmeister's talking about. But Daz, first of all, getting fed up of the go ahead, sit back, invite pressure, then ultimately concede. And I suppose the second part of the question, because we want to answer Checkmeister's question, is how the right person to take us to that elite level.
No, like you can see where Checkmeister is coming from. At the same kind of, not to the same degree, but we had doubts last year. I remember for a short period of time. Then Eddie turned around, went on a run, won the cup, got into the Champions League. The rest is history. Everyone delighted. Eddie Howe is still our manager. This season, we've had been on a bit of a roller coaster again. There's kind of doubts over some in-game substitutions, sticking with favourites, different things that contribute as well. But for me, Eddie stays. Eddie stays. I 100% back Eddie. I just want to judge everything at the end of the season, but it may come. That may be the final outcome that we do need to do something different. Again, but then after the World Cup as well, the number of managers will become available. I know we talked about one before, guys, off air, but 100% behind Eddie, and with Wisa back now as well, it'll give a different outlet when he plays him, and when Wisa is fully fit to play, so he can take the burden a bit off Big Nick. So yeah, sticking with Eddie, but yeah, there's frustration as well.
Pete, in response to Checkmeister's question, kind of where's your head at with the is it a mentality thing? Is it a tactics thing? I know I've asked you this question before. How frustrating is it? Where are you with that? And also, as well, the last part of Checkmeister's question is how the right person to take us to that elite level.
I don't think it's a tactic thing to sit back. Eddie Howe was asked that question tonight after the game, and he says it isn't a tactic. For me, I think it's more of a mentality thing. It's a mentality thing that's ingrained into our players, and this goes beyond Eddie Howe even beforehand. We saw it with other managers previously in other situations. It's a mentality thing for Newcastle United to sit back and just soak up pressure. We've seen it in less over the last few years, but this year we've seen it all the time, and we have to get to the bottom of why. Is it personnel that naturally fall back onto their 18-yard box? Is it, a lack of belief that they can hold on to games? Is it a lack of belief maybe in the goalkeeper or in certain players on the pitch? I'm just putting out suggestions. I've got no idea, but there's something fundamentally wrong. If Eddie Howe's saying that it's not his tactic to sit back, but yet the players are doing it, there's something that's fundamentally wrong there. It's either the tactic, the setup of personnel, or the lack of trust somewhere on the pitch. Not necessarily with the manager, but with the players within themselves. There's something not right, because if Eddie Howe's wanting the players to be more pragmatic, wants them to be more intense and more front foot, and they're not doing it, then there's a problem there. But that's where I think subs today should have been used more effectively to ensure that we were on the front foot, that we were more attacking, that we were looking to pen them back. Because when we do that, we are very good at doing that with opposition teams. So I do think there's an element of that. In terms of how being the person to take us to that elite level, well, if you ask our CEO, he already thinks Eddie Howe's an elite level manager, because he said that in his comments the other day. that he believes Eddie Howe is an elite manager, and he hasn't seen a manager that works as hard and does what he does as a manager. He hasn't seen that before, and that's a CEO that was been CEO at Real Madrid. So take for that what you will. Can he do and take us to the next level? Absolutely. He's already taken us 2 levels since he came manager of Newcastle United. He took us out of the bottom half race and put us into the Champions League. He's then taken us from a 7th place position where we didn't get European football, took us back to the Champions League and won us a trophy. Do I believe that Eddie Howe can take us the next step and take us not just to Champions League football, but potentially regular top 4, possibly a title race? I do believe he can do that. There's caveats and things that need to happen in order for that to be the case, and that's not necessarily up to Eddie Howe. That's up to the club. Finances, signings, etc., need to be able to help him along the way with that. But I do genuinely believe that Eddie Howe will be the guy. I have some issues with just outsing Eddie Howe and just moving them on, and there's people out there that think we can get these top level managers to come in and manage Newcastle United. It's not realistic for me. There's no top level manager out there that will come to Newcastle United on the wages that we offer and the transfer budget that we currently have. Like, it's not realistic and it's not sustainable. You'll get a manager that will come here, blast the money for a year, and then when it doesn't work, or if it doesn't work, we'll quite quickly leave the club and we'll be back to square one again, probably in a PSR mess. We need a manager that can coach, can better the players that he's currently got and build at the same time, which is what he's already done and proven that he can do. And the last thing I'll say is that talks of Areola and Glasner, although good managers, aren't managing at top clubs and don't know how to manage a top level club that's aspiring to be Champions League football. For me, at best, Glasner and Areola are sidestep managers. They're not managers that are better than what we've currently got. And if we ever, when the day comes that Eddie Howe leaves this football club, and it will come at some point, he will leave the football club, we need to ensure that the next manager that comes in is better than what we currently have. And at this point in time, I don't believe that there's a manager out there in the world that's better than Eddie Howe that will come to Newcastle United in its current state. I just don't believe it, which is why I'm not banging the drum for Eddie Howe to be sacked. And this is why I don't get involved in Eddie out talk. Sophie, you're right. Glasner did win the Europa with Frankfurt, but I don't see Frankfurt as a bigger club than Newcastle United. I don't see it. I don't see Frankfurt as a bigger club than Newcastle United. That's the reality. Like, in Glasner's at Crystal Palace, and let's not forget, Glasner at Crystal Palace is moaning and whining and crying because he hasn't got enough money to invest in his team in Crystal Palace, and he's been doing that in the last 3 or 4 press conferences, moaning and whining he hasn't got enough money. What's he going to do at Newcastle United when we're expecting him to be achieving Champions League football and beyond and winning his trophies and this, that, and the other, and he can't do it because he's going to be moaning he hasn't got the money? You don't see Eddie Howe moaning, he cracks on, he gets on with the job. So this is where you got to weigh it up. Just because they're doing well at their current clubs, their clubs are nowhere near the stature and level of our club. You've got to weigh it up. You only have to look at Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank's gone from Brentford to Tottenham, and look at how he's struggling right now, and they want him out. He struggled with making the step up. He's a good manager, but making the step up to a club that's got expectations far greater than his current club, it ain't easy. It ain't easy.
Fair comment. Let's see. I want to pop this one up, and Daz, I think you put this one up by accident, but it was an interesting one. No, mate, and it's fine. And it kind of shows the balance. It kind of shows where Newcastle United fan bases may be split, not in terms of falling out, but in terms of how they view Eddie Howe, how they view the club. But Dan Man says, "Love you guys, but I'm out. Can't deal with these comments. Not a bad result. Decent point away. Obviously would have preferred the win. 10 points out of 12 in the league. Ridiculous calling for Howe's head." And Dan Man, hopefully you join us on the next show, mate. But thank you for your comments, and thank you for tuning in the first place. Anyway, it's much appreciated, and hopefully we'll have
everyone's comments are just to add in. Everyone's comments are valid. Okay,
absolutely.
I've given my point. I've given my opinion on Eddie Howe. I know Sophie's been very, very kind of vocal in our chat as one of our mods that she doesn't want Eddie Howe in charge of Newcastle United. We have differences of opinions on that. That's great. This is all part of the conversation, not just us three on the panel, but people in the chat as well. This is we yes, you might see comments and things that you don't agree with, you might not like, but everyone has different opinions. This is why we do what we do. This is why we have these discussions, because not everyone agrees, but everyone's allowed an opinion. And this is the beauty of having the channel that we have, because we don't out people and tell people to go and watch another channel or kick them off because we don't agree with them. We encourage it because I want to hear other opinions. I want to hear other opinions, whether I agree with it or not. This is what it's all about.
Exactly. Otherwise, we just turn off the comments. There'll be no comments.
Exactly.
And it'll just be us talking. And we want to assure that interacts with you guys in the audience. That's why we're here at 11:15 on a Wednesday night.
It's why we love it, isn't it? And you like boys.
Sorry, Sophie. I might have worded that wrong. She said I haven't said that I want Eddie out. She wants him she wants Eddie to prove her wrong and show some change. But yeah, because it's the same thing. So yeah, I apologize.
Sophie's calling
wrong, Sophie, but
Sophie's calling Pete out for a straightener. I'm watching too much of the City Hour. Sorry, boys. Carry on.
Right, we've got another super chat in the chat, so I'm going to come straight to that one. It's from Benny Boy. Thank you very much, Benny Boy. Benny Boy says, very worried that we seem incapable of seeing out narrow leads because the Mackhams come on strong late. Because the Mackhams come on strong late on in games. They've not lost at home and were 2-0 down in their last home game, but still won. I think that was against Bournemouth, wasn't it? A very good side. But is that a concern? Is that a concern? Pete, I'll come to you first. Is that a concern for you in terms of going back to what you were saying before about the mentality thing in terms of the players? Is that a big concern?
Absolutely. Because Benny Boy's right. Sunderland, they have like a never say die attitude and they go right to the end. You only have to look at getting that late equaliser against Arsenal, for example. I was watching, that's just one game that I watched. They don't give up. At Anfield, they're still ploughing forward, trying to get that winner, trying to nick the game in the last minutes, in the dying embers. And if we are winning, which I do believe we've got a great chance of doing, because for all their heart and work and desire, and I hope I don't jinx this, but Sunderland don't score a lot of goals. They don't create a lot of chances, massive chances in games. And I believe that we will. And I believe that there's a great chance that we could be leading going into the dying embers of the game. And I just hope that we have that steel and that resilience to keep going in games to combat that fact that they don't give up, because they are a team with a lot of heart. As much as we don't like them, as much as we want to pummel them into the ground, they are a team with that heart and desire and keep going where they maybe lack quality and technical ability. So I think it's an absolutely great point, and it's something that we need to make sure we get right. And look, what better way of fixing that problem of not being able to see out games than doing it at the Stadium of Shite and actually getting the 3 points on the board. That's what we want more than anything. So fingers crossed that can be the catalyst for change. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, Daz, I mean, Pete, I was just going to say, Daz, we saw that when Sunderland got promoted. Dan Ballard, I believe, scored a last-minute header against Coventry, against all the odds, and it proves, that they don't give up. They will keep battling on, they will keep fighting. Now, Pete mentioned a bit earlier on that apparently in the post-match, Eddie was asked, about whether this was a tactical thing, whether it was a mentality thing. Do you actually think, and maybe I'm crossing my fingers here, I don't know, but do you think that the way that we've again caved towards the end of the game, do you think that's going to have any impact on the game at the weekend? Do you think Eddie Howe's going to be looking at this and thinking we really need to sort this out because this cannot continue?
I'm not sure about the weekend, because I think a derby game is completely different to everything else. But it has to have some kind of effect, because it's happening way too often. Pete listed out about 8 occasions where we've conceded in the last 10 minutes of games, let's say. So, but I think a derby game will be different. But I think also Benny Boy makes some great points here on this upcoming game. Which kind of does set it up for a very, very interesting game, a tasty one on Sunday. But I'm just hoping that they won't be there come the end of the match, because they'll be all thinking about getting home, packing their bags to head off to AFCON. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, absolutely, mate, absolutely. Right, let's do a few more before we wrap, boys. I love this from Frieden. He says, even though we're all disappointed right now, hit that like button and support the channel. Frieden, absolutely, mate, absolutely. Obviously, we encourage everybody, if you haven't already, please hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And of course, thank you everybody for watching. So yeah, love that, Frieden. Thank you for that. Right, let me see. Oh, this is an interesting. I'm going to throw a few controversial ones up here. You may not take long to answer these questions, but they need answering. So Chris says, 5 at the back on Sunday?
No.
Pete?
I don't think so.
Absolutely fucking not. Absolutely not. Yeah. In the words of Mike Bassett, England manager, 4-3-3.
I like that. No, I agree, boys. I agree. Back 4. Dan Burn will be in there, I'm sure. But yeah, back 4.
Nailed on.
Yeah.
In fairness, for this one, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, local lads. So yeah, you
as long as he's not playing left back.
As long as he's not playing, I want Lewis Hall at that left back position. If I see Dan Burn at left back, I'm going to be panicking. I'll be honest, I will be panicking. Can't happen. I can see Pete shaking his head. Can't happen. Pete Tennessee says, I can't wait for Pope to be back. And then EIP, the Romero organisation, says, I agree, Pope over Ramsdale. Is that where you are, Pete? We've seen Adam Ramsdale for a few games now. Are you convinced? Are you sticking with him? I know you haven't really got much choice at the moment, but are you seeing through with Ramsdale, or are you like Tennessee's and VIP, the Romero organisation, in that you can't wait for Nick Pope to be back?
Yeah. Sorry, I starred these ones because I thought they were quite funny. I've seen the change in lots of people on socials with regards to Ramsdale and Pope. And look, I called for, like we all did, we all called for Ramsdale to come in once that Pope blunder at Marseille, because it effectively changed the course of the game. And I think it was deserved, although Eddie Howe didn't necessarily make the decision because the injury caused the change. I think it needed to happen anyway, because I think at that point we'd been calling to see more of Ramsdale, and now we've seen a little bit more of Ramsdale. I just go back to my original thoughts. Where I am is where I was kind of at the beginning of the season, in that it's almost confirmed my thoughts on both goalkeepers, in that they both have so Ramsdale has the strengths of Pope's weaknesses, and Pope has the strengths of Ramsdale's weaknesses, and that's just where we are. And for me, it's just a case of whichever goalkeeper you're going to have in net, you're going to have them do some things really well. Like his distribution's been great. Ramsdale, he's made a couple of decent saves, but his distribution's been very, very good and allowed us to be really, really progressive. I don't think he was overly bad tonight. I just want him to command his area a bit more, and that's exactly what Pope does. So that's kind of like the frailty that we have in him commanding his area is what Pope's really good at. And obviously Pope's a good shot stopper. I actually think Pope probably saves Grimaldo's goal. I think he gets out and he makes himself big, and he's the type of goalkeeper that gets something on that and stops that from going in. But that's kind of what you're fighting with. We almost need them to merge together to have the perfect goalkeeper. And I think until the season ends, I think we're still going to have this battle regardless. So I'm not saying, from what I've seen from Ramsdale, I'm not saying Ramsdale out, I want Pope back in.
Yeah.
What I do believe, though, whether people agree with it or not, or whether I agree with it or not, I actually think when Pope's fit, he comes back in. I think it's another Dubravka-Pope situation when Dubravka had that run of games when Pope was injured with his knee. When Pope got back fit, Pope was sent straight back into the team almost at the earliest opportunity. I actually think that will, regardless of whether we agree with it or not, I actually think that will happen again. I think Pope will be the number one and he'll come back into the team. But so I'm kind of like, I'm not on the fence. I'm just kind of like, it is what it is. Like Ramsdale will play until Pope's fit and Pope will come back into the team. I'm not kind of saying one in, one out. I think Ramsdale's done okay. I think there's some things he could have been better at. I think he could have stopped that first goal from going in. But I think his distribution is very good and I think it helps the team a lot in transitions. So it's a really hard situation to be in because I personally, at this moment in time, I actually don't prefer either goalkeeper. I'm not siding with one over the other. I think they've just got the strengths and weaknesses of each other, like the opposites of each other. And that's just where we are as a goalkeeping pairing at the moment, which is, I actually think it's not ideal, if I'm being honest with you, lads. I think we need a definitive one is better than the other. I think that's probably what this season has taught me so far. Having seen a little bit more of Ramsdale, I think we need a definitive goalkeeper that actually can do a bit of everything and is good all round. And I don't think we have that with our current goalkeepers. I think there's a genuine weakness in one area or the other, whether it's Pope or whether it's Ramsdale. And I think that's the issue that we're going to have to run with until the season's out, lads.
I want to come here as well because I agree with Pete. Pope, Eddie Howe is going to put Pope back in once he's fully fit. But and I think we're stuck with the goalkeepers we have for this season. But I don't want either of them next season. We need an elite goalkeeper, and I think the Clown has a good shout here. Just there now for Buggen from Brighton. It's a decent keeper. I don't know. I'd still look further afield, but he's not a bad shout. I don't know. We need an elite keeper. It's someone. It's the time we. I think it needs to be the number one thing on our shopping list in the summer. A keeper.
It's become such an important position on the pitch now, more than ever.
Yeah.
That for me, I know the remit for our club is to buy young, early 20s, 23 up to 24, and develop them. I think the goalkeeping position is so important. If I'm Newcastle, I wouldn't be just narrowing my search for a young goalkeeper, 20 up to 24. I would be looking at an experienced goalkeeper, someone that could come in for 3 or 4 years and just be that guy that's got really good experience. I know we talked about Magic Mike before, like that would be an option, but there's others. I'll be honest. Look, Colin has put Pickford. I'll be honest with you. If he wasn't a Mackham, I think he'd already be at Newcastle. If he wasn't a Mackham, he'd already be at Newcastle because actually his fundamental. I know we took the piss out of him for conceding the goal he did against Everton, but his fundamentals, he's good. He's a good all-round goalkeeper. I wouldn't go for him. Aaron's put in there Rested in France. He's 20 years old. He's a really young goalkeeper, but he's got massive potential. Young French goalkeeper. We have actually been linked with him in the last few days. He's a terrific goalkeeper, but he's still very young, and you wouldn't want to put him in to be the number one at 20 years old at Newcastle United in the Premier League. I think it'd just be too soon for him. I think he needs time to develop, but I would be going the more experienced goalkeeper personally. Like Villa have got. Sorry, Chris. Like Villa have got Martinez.
Mate, I was just going to ask. Would you go for him?
Yeah, I would. I hate the guy because he plays for Villa. But if he came to us, I'd absolutely love him. And it's that type of goalkeeper. I'm not saying Martinez particularly, but I would get someone with a bit of experience. I think when they signed him, he was around the 30-year-old mark. I think he was around the 30. That for me, anywhere between the 28 and 30, as an experienced goalkeeper. So you're looking at the Dortmund goalkeeper, Kerbal.
Yeah.
Someone literally just put it in the chat as I said it. Daniel. Daniel Ligo put it in the chat about someone like him, an experienced goalkeeper that's kind of like already established, plays Champions League football. Someone at that level, I would go and get someone like that, because you can't mess around with the goalkeeper. But I've got a question for you boys. If we did go out and get an experienced goalkeeper, who would you keep out of the two? Would you keep Pope or would you keep Ramsdale? Would you pay the money for Ramsdale and sell off Pope, or would you keep Pope and just send Ramsdale back to Southampton as the second choice goalkeeper, as the clear, definitive second choice? Because in an ideal world, we've gone and got the experienced goalkeeper. Who would you keep?
I suppose Eddie Howe would keep Pope because he's part of the players' union as well now. But I wouldn't buy Ramsdale now. I know he called for him to be given a shot, and only right. And he still has more games to prove himself as well. But for the money that Southampton will want for him, I'd go further afield. So I don't think it's wise to pay a big money for that second keeper. If they're going to do that, you might as well go get Trafford. But so I know what Aaron is saying there. Sell Pope, Ramsdale is younger. I'd go with that logic as well. But I'd buy. And we're not going to buy two keepers in the one summer either. So that's why I think he'll keep Pope.
Yeah, I think given the choice, I'd keep Pope, and the reason being, as much as Ramsdale impresses me in terms of his distribution and his feet, because you can see the players are more than comfortable giving him the ball. And even now, I think I've still got that awkwardness where the ball goes back to Ramsdale, and I'm like, oh, and then he does this really good pass, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's Ramsdale. So that is great, but I have a real problem, and I've seen it in the past 2 or 3 games. I have a real problem with set pieces and balls coming into the box because he's nowhere. We saw it again tonight at the back post. Ball comes looping over, and you're thinking, you're a big lad. Come and claim it. Even just punch it. Do something. But he stands on his line. And it's a bit like, at this level, you can't do that. And in fairness to Pope, as much as Pope has his frailties, Pope will be coming out. Pope will be trying to, get contact on it. He may make the odd howler, as we're all aware. But as well as that, it would save us having to fork out 20 million on Ramsdale and then have to go and spend X amount on another player. Whereas if you send Ramsdale back, you take the 4 million hit that you've already given Southampton. But then you keep Pope, and then you don't have to fork out more money to bring in another goalkeeper. So I think I'd keep Pope, and then I'd put all my money into a new goalkeeper. Another one is a shout. Maybe someone like Jan Sommer from Inter Milan. Very experienced goalkeeper. Magic Mike's already been mentioned.
Magic Mike.
I like Coble.
Magic Mike, he's the guy from Unholy Trinity, from the goalkeeper union, yeah? That Magic Mike?
He's a goalkeeper, yeah. He's a goalkeeper.
Who's on Top Table Talk, yeah?
The one that said that Jordan Pickford wouldn't make a mistake against Newcastle.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Magic Mike.
Just one name to throw out there, and a team that tried to get rid of him in the summer, but he was adamant he wanted to stay. Would you not want to add another German to the mix and get to Stegen?
Oh.
I've just looked on here, and his value, his market value, his contract runs out in 2028. His value is 7.3 million. He's 33 years old though, but still a class goalkeeper. Like, could you get a couple of years out of him while you're rejigging the squad? A cheap deal, just a name to be thrown out there for a couple of years to Stegen. Obviously, they've got Garcia, who we were interested in. Who they want to be clearly the number one, but just we could go out with all experienced goalkeepers. But just my opinion, I think we need to go an experienced goalkeeper. I kind of agree. I think they'll probably keep Pope as number one. I think you don't want to really be paying 20 million for Ramsdale to be a backup goalkeeper. As good as his distribution is, but yeah, it's We could. I bet we'll see in the comments after the show there'll be loads of goalkeeper names, experienced goalkeeper names that'll be thrown out.
Your friends, bring them home.
Yeah,
Brazilian.
Yeah. But lots of options, boys. Lots of options. This one's a really easy one for me, and I'm assuming it's going to be an easy one for you boys as well. And maybe Clon Lad's trying to bring a bit of perspective back into the discussion. Well, Conrad says, which manager would you rather, Eddie, Amorim, or Slot?
Easy.
Is that even a question, really?
Yeah.
Eddie Howe.
I don't know whether Clonlad's asking that question because he's almost trying to say to people who maybe are suggesting that we need to get rid of Eddie, that maybe the grass isn't always greener. Because you look at some teams and you think, wow, look at the managers they ended up with. So maybe there's a bit of skullduggery going on there from the Clonlad. Who knows? Right. Let's see. What else can we ask? Sophie says, I think it's a valid point because I think it is a door that will be knocked on in the summer. Sophie says that she believes Tino Livramento is going to be off to City in the summer or January. Do you boys share that opinion, Dad? Start with you.
I have a great track record on this. There is no way Tino is going anywhere this January or in the summer. He stays in Newcastle.
Pete?
Yeah, I listened to something the other day that said that Tino's not even in contract talks, although it's been rumoured to be that he is, and that he's waiting until this summer, which really worries me. It really worries me because he is very, very good. I'm going to go with my heart, and I'm going to say he's going to stay at Newcastle United. I don't think he goes anywhere this season, so I don't think it's an option, but I am really, really worried that if he's not signed a contract by the end of this season, that we're going to have another problem come the summer. And another English team are going to be trying to nab one of our better players in the team. I do worry about it, but I'm going to go with my heart and I'm going to say that he signs a new deal and he stays at Newcastle United. He's talked about how much he loves the club and how much he's enjoying playing at the club, and he's a regular guy. He doesn't want to become a robot and go to City. Come on, they just become robots there, man. Like, yeah, they might win a trophy or two, but you only have to look at Jack Grealish, how it changes your game, and how he's kind of rediscovered his game at Everton. Be the guy at Newcastle. You're the main guy. You're going to start every week. You're going to get in the England squad, playing for Newcastle United. Come on, sign your deal, man.
Yeah,
Tino, sign the deal. Tino, sign the deal. Get that. Come on, get that going. Get that going at the Stadium of Shite. Come on. Let's get it going. Yeah. I've come up with a few songs actually. I've come up with some bangers. I'm not even like tooting my own drum. Like I'm like literally, I've come up with a couple of banging songs that we could be getting on the terraces.
How friendlies have you had this evening, Pete?
No. These have been over the last week. I've just been like just thinking in my head what good songs, and I've just been making a note of them. Just some chants. There's a couple of absolute bangers. Not gonna lie.
That's a special show coming up and loaded soon.
I don't know who the go-to person is that I can pass them on to so they can get onto the terraces. But yeah,
mate, I reckon next time you're there, you just get belting it out and just bring people on board, bring them on board.
I will. Yeah. I will. I'll get people around me to get it going, and yeah, we'll do it 100%.
Love it. This one is an easy one for me, but I'm interested to hear your boys' thoughts. Pete, I'll come to you first. Kendo says, would you rather Barnes or Gordon on the right wing?
I think Gordon should have started on the right wing. If you're playing the two of them, I think Gordon should have started it. I was annoyed that Eddie Howe allowed Gordon to start on the left. He didn't play well in the second half. Obviously, he didn't play well in the first half. Second half, he justified it. He played really well. He was good. I personally wouldn't have any of them on the right-hand side. I would have just gone with someone that can actually play on the right, whether it's Alanga or Murphy. And as bad a form as they might both be in, I would have gone with one of them. But if you're asking me if you're going to start both of them and you're asking me for one, I would have gone with Gordon, because I think it was really harsh that, again, for the second time, it happened back in the last season, it's happened again tonight, that Barnes is kind of shoehorned and pigeonholed into the right-hand side to accommodate Gordon, who wasn't really playing well up until the second half. I thought it was really harsh on Barnes, and it affected Barnes' game. And Barnes was a man in form at this moment in time. So, yeah, I was disappointed with that, but I would have said Gordon, but ultimately, neither of them. And if we're gonna go to the stadium a lot on Sunday, either Langer or Murphy should be started on the right hand side. Who that is, we'll probably discuss that tomorrow.
Yeah. Murphy doesn't play well away from home though. So I think, boy, you never know. Might be. Newcastle fan, of course, maybe. Yeah. Look, we will discuss that tomorrow. Go on, let's go.
Yeah. For me on this one, by the way, I was going to say the same. Neither would be my answer. I would have started Langer personally tonight. But yeah, I like you, Pete. I think it was harsh on Harvey Barnes being shifted up to the right. I really do. But it's all hindsight, isn't it? Because if we'd have won 3-1 tonight, I'm sure I wouldn't be saying that. So it's one of those, isn't it? It's absolutely one of those. Right, boys. Let me see. Let's do one more. Where am I? Why don't we? Ooh. I did see it before, and I wanted to ask it. Where is it? I like this, by the way. I'm not gonna ask you for an answer on this one, but I do like it. Jumpers for goalposts. Says on a serious question.
I like it.
Yeah. Has Miley put a patent in place for the 67? Has Miley put a patent in place for the 67 shirt? Months, absolutely. Yeah, I was doing that to our baby when Miley scored. She didn't like it. She said it was cringe, but I loved it. I love making our baby cringe.
My students beg me to say it.
Really?
When I make reference to it, they all like look at me and they're just waiting for me to do it. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. They're like, oh. So then I do it. They're all like, yeah.
Play into the crowd, Pete. I like that.
I just avoid it now. I avoid the numbers.
Yeah. Right. Oh, where is it, boys? I've seen it before and I thought, yeah, here we go. Here it is from Chris. Chris, last question of the night, mate. This team doesn't even play to Voltemada's strengths. We need a change in style and system. Now, Pete, I'm asking you this one. Do we see a change in style as Johan Visser comes into the fold as soon as he gets fit? You've mentioned Boxing Day is when you'd expect Johan Visser, to make a start. With the whole winger situation, I'm almost looking a bit 6'7" there, aren't I? With the whole winger situation, do we see a 4-2-3-1? God forbid, with Nick Voltemada sitting just behind Johan Visser, who's potentially in the 9. Do you think that is something Eddie Howe's going to look at going forward, or do you see it staying 4-3-3 and it's just utilising Voltemada and Visser and sharing the minutes out?
Yeah, I don't see those two boys starting together. I just don't see it. I don't see those two starting in the first 11. I do see them in games playing together. So one of them coming off the bench and the other staying on and playing together, a little bit like Wilson and Isak did. At times when we were chasing the game and we needed both on the pitch to try and salvage something from it or get back into the game, I do see that happening. But there's a little worry in there with regards to this because obviously Johan Visser is very much like a similar mold, not the same, but a similar mold to Isak. And I can see us when he does and is ready to start kind of reverting back to that old style of play because it's like kind of plug and play. Like, it's almost like it's just imprinted in the players' minds. They know how to play. They know the ball to play. They know the style. They know what works. And you got someone that can make those runs in and behind has got the pace to disrupt. So I can see that being the case when Johan Visser starts. But I do think that could have a knock-on effect to Nick Voltemada because we still have to find a way to get him involved in games. Now, I don't believe tonight was that night. I believe we created chances. We put balls into the box. We gave him opportunities to be there on the end of things. And he either wasn't there or he's in the wrong position or he just didn't take the opportunity or didn't use the ball well. I do think it was down to being a poor performance from him rather than us not providing for him. But there has been games recently where we just haven't provided for him. So I get the point that Chris is making. I do worry that when Visser is fit, that we revert back to type and it does have a knock-on effect to Voltemada we need to find a way of him playing. And that's just kind of where I'm at with things. I really want Nick Woltemade to succeed. I want him to get double figures in goals. I want him to be scoring goals on a regular basis for Newcastle United and really propel himself into having a fantastic season. But the more we have games like tonight, the more I think fans will start to call for Wissa to play, because we know what we're going to get from him and he'll be more of a threat, which I think he genuinely will in this score setup. And I think that will be detrimental to Nick Woltemade. I hope it's not, but that's kind of where my thoughts are right now.
Dazzler?
No, nothing really more to add to this one, Chris. I think we will see in time. I know Eddie mentioned before the game as well, there may be certain situations that he plays both of them together, and he said that he doesn't think he'd ever at the moment he doesn't think he'd start both of them together, but there'll be sometimes that I imagine if we hadn't have gone 2-1 up, we would have saw Wissa earlier, and that would have been both of them on the pitch at the same time. But it'll be like a bit like Wilson and the other fella. Can't think of his name. It's something to look forward to, maybe.
Boys,
also.
Oh, go on, sorry. I was just going to say one more tiny one in.
Go on.
Only because this was a bit of a shock to me, because when I seen it, I was a bit like, oh. And of course, it comes from Tony Beasley. Transfer Tony. Of course, it comes from Tony. Very quick one. Eddie seems to have no faith in our right wingers, in my opinion. He'd rather play a left there. He's referring to the fact that Barnes played on the right wing tonight. Than play the likes of Elanga and Murphy. Seen the links with Bowen today. I haven't seen those links. Can't see it happening personally. Boys, very quickly, Daz, I'll come to you first. Do you see any world where we go out and buy another right winger? To me, I agree with what Pete said. I can't remember if it was last show or the show before that, Anthony Elanga is here long term. But is Jacob Murphy's position under threat? And will Eddie roll the dice again and bring in another right winger? Do you see that happening?
No, not in January. The only world I see Jared Bowen coming to Newcastle is if West Ham were to get relegated. I think he'd have Denny Dyer after him, and not only his wife but his father-in-law after him as well. He's wedded to West Ham at the moment. Can't see it happening. Great player. I have him on a fantasy football team as well now. And he would be perfect for us. But no, not going to happen this season.
Pete, very quickly, mate. Right winger, do you reckon? Or maybe Bowen?
I would absolutely love Jared Bowen to sign for Newcastle United. I don't see it though. Captain of West Ham. I think he's still got like 6 or 7 years left on his contract. I just don't see it happening. But I would love it. He can play anywhere across the middle, the front three. I think he would add real strength to this team and add goals and assists, etc. I don't see it happening, but I would like that type of signing. I said it on Top Table Talk last night. I admire what Villa did last January, albeit it was very expensive for them. It showed ambition, and I really want Newcastle United to show ambition in January and go and get a couple of really good players to add to this team to really kick us on for this second half. And yeah, I would love it to be an attacking minded player, a midfielder, and I'm being greedy, back as well. So I want 3. I want 3 for January, but I'm sure we'll discuss this all when the transfer shows come along.
We will, boys. We have a couple of seconds to close out the show. Pete, tell us about tomorrow. What's happening tomorrow?
We have our resident Sunderland fan who came on 2 years ago from Sky Sports. Tom White is coming to join us again. Great to have Tom White back, or from Sky Sports Studios into the Loaded Mag Studios. He's going to be repping Sunderland. We're going to be repping Newcastle United. It's going to be tasty. It's going to come with some confidence and some chest. Don't miss it. We'll be there 6:30 live on Loaded Mag AFC.
Will you have any key takeaways, Chris?
Daz is froze.
He's froze. He may well be back in just a second. You guys take care. We'll be back very, very soon. See ya later.